dark matter.
She drove. She noticed other things as the numbers descended. Small things. The reflective posts on the sides of the road were the right color, white on the right, red on the left, the standard configuration, but they were placed wrong. Too close together. Closer than regulations required, closer than she had ever seen them, as if whatever had placed them had not known the rules or had known them and had decided the rules did not apply here. The road surface changed. Not dramatically, it was still asphalt, still 2 lanes, still the right width, but the texture of it under her tires was different, older. The specific sound of driving on very old asphalt, the sound before they repaved with the modern materials, a sound she recognized from childhood road trips with her father on roads that had not been maintained in decades.
What lives in the walls? The first thing Tom Greer found was a button. Small, black, 4-holed, the kind that belonged to a woman's coat, the kind that had not been fashionable since the 1960s. He found it in the gap between the bathroom wall and the bathroom floor, in the space that opened up when he pulled the old baseboard away as part of the renovation. He pocketed it without thinking. Old house, old button. The previous owners had been an elderly couple who had lived there for 40 years and had died within 6 months of each other, the wife first, the husband after. The specific loyalty of people who have been together so long that the ending of one begins the ending of the other. The realtor had mentioned it as if it were charming. Tom had found it sad in the quiet way that other people's long lives sometimes are when you encounter the evidence of them. He had bought the house for the bones of it. The 1920s construction, the original hardwood under 40 years of carpet, the ceilings that were the height ceilings used to be before developers started calculating the minimum height required to not feel claustrophobic and building to that. He and his wife Sarah and their daughter Maya had moved in 3 months ago. The renovation had started immediately. The button was the first thing. The second thing was a handprint. He found it 2 weeks into the project, inside the master bedroom. He had taken down the drywall to replace the insulation, and there it was, on the old lath and plaster underneath, pressed into the plaster with enough force to leave a clear impression. A handprint. Small, adult-sized but small, a small adult or a large child, the fingers spread wide, the palm flat. It was pressed from the inside. He stood and looked at it for a long time. Old house, he told himself. Someone had pressed their hand into wet plaster during the original construction. A worker probably, bored probably. The kind of thing workers did in 1926 when nobody was watching. He took a photograph of it and texted it to Sarah with the caption, "Found this inside the wall. Kinda cool, right?" She replied, "That's creepy, babe." He covered it with new insulation and new drywall. The third thing was a food wrapper. He found it 2 weeks after the handprint, inside the wall of Maya's room. A candy wrapper, the specific waxy paper of a brand that had been discontinued in the early 1990s, the logo faded but legible. He found it wedged into a gap between the exterior wall and the interior stud. He looked at it for a long time. He thought about how a candy wrapper from the 1990s had gotten inside the wall of a house that had not been renovated since before that decade. He thought about the only explanations available to him. It had been there since the house was built and had been moved by rodents, or it had gotten in through a gap somewhere, or someone had put it there. Someone had put it there. He was looking at the wrapper and thinking about this when Maya came in. She was 7 years old. She looked at the wrapper in his hand. "That's from in the wall," she said. "Yeah," he said. "The man must have dropped it," she said. Tom looked at her. "What man?" he said. Maya looked at the wall. "The one in the walls," she said, with the specific matter-of-fact tone of a 7-year-old discussing something they consider fully established. "He moves around at night. I hear him. He sounds like he's walking, but slower than walking." She paused. "I think he's being careful not to make noise." Tom looked at his daughter. "Maya," he said carefully, "have you seen this man?" "No," she said. "Just his eye sometimes. There's a gap in my closet wall near the floor. Sometimes there's an eye in it." She seemed entirely unbothered by this. "I said hi once, but he didn't say anything back." Tom stood up. He crossed to the closet. He crouched down at the base of the closet wall.
There was a gap, a small one, the separation between two pieces of baseboard that had warped over 90 years, creating an opening perhaps half an inch wide and 2 inches tall. He put his eye to the gap. Darkness. The inside of the wall, the insulation, the dark space between the interior and exterior walls that ran the length of the house. He was about to stand up when he saw it. The light. Very faint, moving slightly, the specific quality of a light that was not electrical, a small flame perhaps, a candle or a lighter. It was maybe 8 feet in the darkness of the wall space, and it was moving in the specific way of something being carried. He was on his feet and out of the closet before he had made the decision to move. "Stay here," he said. He went to his toolbox and got the flashlight, and he went to the basement where the crawl space access was, and he opened it, and he shined the light in. The crawl space ran for the full footprint of the house. It was not empty. It was not the emptiness of a long, undisturbed space, the thick dust and the cobwebs and the settled detritus of decades. It was the emptiness of a space that was used. The dust was disturbed in trails, pathways, worn down by regular passage running from the access hatch toward the far end of the crawl space and up, presumably into the wall cavities above. There were pathways. There was a sleeping area, he could see it from the hatch, a flattened section with what appeared to be a folded blanket, a dark rectangle that had the specific compressed look of something that had been slept on for a long time. There was a small collection of objects near the sleeping area. He could not make them out from the hatch. He went in. He went into the crawl space on his hands and knees with the flashlight, and he followed the pathways to the sleeping area, and he looked at the collection of objects. A tin cup, a folded photograph, he did not unfold it. A book, its spine cracked from use. A small calendar, the kind businesses gave away, the year on it 2019. The candy wrapper he had found in Maya's wall was not there, but there was another one, same brand. And beside the sleeping area, carefully arranged a collection of things that stopped his breathing. A button, black, 4-holed, from a woman's coat. A child's sock, small, pink, with a pattern of small yellow stars. A single earring, gold, hoop, the clasp open. He looked at the sock. He looked at it for a long time. Maya had a pair of socks with yellow stars. She had had them since before they moved here. She had worn them on the drive to the new house. He remembered them specifically because she had been wearing them when she ran through the house for the first time, her small feet in yellow-starred socks on the hardwood floors. He could not remember the last time he had seen that pair of socks. He picked up the flashlight. He shined it down the pathways, along the crawl space, toward the far end where the trails went up into the walls. The light caught something at the far end. 2 eyes. Catching the light the way eyes catch light in the dark, the specific flat reflective shine of eyes that are looking directly at the beam. They were human eyes. They were looking at him. They did not look away. They stayed like that, him with the flashlight, the eyes at the far end, for what felt like a very long time and was probably 30 seconds. Then the eyes moved. They moved upward, into the wall cavity, disappearing into the darkness above. He heard movement in the wall above the crawl space, the careful movement that Maya had described, slow, deliberate, the movement of something that had been doing this for a long time and had learned to do it quietly. He heard it move through the wall of the living room. He heard it move through the wall of the hallway. He heard it stop, outside the crawl space hatch, on the basement floor. He had left the hatch open. He heard it come down. He heard it cross the basement floor. He heard it stop at the entrance to the crawl space. He shined the flashlight. A man was crouching at the hatch. Thin, pale in the way of someone who has not been in sunlight for a long time. His clothes were the clothes of a person who had been wearing the same things for months, unwashed, worn, the fabric thinning at the elbows and knees. His hair was long and matted. His face was the face of someone who had once been ordinary and had been doing something extraordinary for so long that the ordinary had been replaced by something else. He was looking at Tom. Tom looked at him. "How long?" he said. The man said nothing. "How long have you been in this house?" The man looked at him with those flat eyes. "Longer than you," he said.
His voice was rough from disuse, the voice of someone who had not spoken to another person in a long time. "The previous owners, the couple who lived here for 40 years, Tom said. The man said nothing. Tom thought about the elderly couple. The wife first, the husband after, 6 months apart. The realtor called it charming. He thought about the button from a woman's coat. He thought about the earring with the open clasp. He thought about Maya's sock with yellow stars. "Did you know them?" Tom said. The man looked at him for a long time. "I knew her," he said. "She used to leave things for me, in the gap under the kitchen baseboard. After she went, the other one, he didn't know. He didn't know about me." A pause. He thought the house was settling. He thought there were mice. Tom looked at him. "The sock. My daughter's sock." The man's expression changed. "I didn't hurt her." The immediacy of it, the speed of it, was the most frightening thing in the crawl space. "I would never. I just wanted something that was from now, from the family, something to hold." He paused. "I haven't had anything from a family in a long time." Tom looked at him. He was not afraid in the way he had been afraid 60 seconds ago. He was afraid in a different way now. The way you're afraid when the monster turns out to be a person. When the person turns out to be something worse than a monster. The oldest couple had lived in this house for 40 years. This man had been in the walls for longer than the family before you had lived in your house, had been there since the beginning, had taken a button, an earring, and his daughter's sock, and called them things from a family. "How long?" Tom said again. The man looked at the floor of the crawl space.
Next time on Dark Matter. Her mother had been a careful woman, not superstitious, not fanciful, a retired school teacher who had kept precise records of everything, who had dated every photograph she had ever taken with the specific thoroughness of someone who understood that memory was unreliable and documentation was not. She did not make mistakes with dates. She had not made a mistake with this date. Caroline picked up the photograph. She looked at the window, at her own silhouette in the lit window. She looked at the garden in the photograph, at the hydrangeas, at the front walk with its crack, at the hanging shutter. She looked at the angle of the photograph. It had been taken from approximately the center of the front garden. Whoever had taken it had been standing in the garden looking up at the window. She looked at the silhouette in the window. She looked at the garden in the photograph. She looked at the silhouette in the window. She understood something. The silhouette was her. She was in the window. She recognized herself completely. But whoever had taken the photograph was standing in the garden below. And the photograph had been in her mother's house. And her mother was dead. She stood up from the kitchen table. She went to the front window, the ground floor, looking out at the front garden, the hydrangeas, the cracked walk, the hanging shutter. She looked at the garden. Please like and subscribe.